Hello everyone! How terribly nice of you to join me once more for my endeavors in befriending the crows. Excuse me if I sound a little bit strange because I have a cold. For those of you that don't know, a few months ago I started befriending all the corvids in my area. So not just the crows but also the jackdaws and the magpies. And I made a video about it which you can watch. In the first video we saw that the crows were slowly starting to recognize me. In this video you will see that there have been some new developments, including some new interesting behavior. Many of you seem to really enjoy the first video, which I in turn really enjoyed. And some of you have had your own experiences with befriending corvids and have also shared some tips with me. So in today's video we will also be trying to feed them some new foods, including dog food and whole peanuts. I decided that I am going to show everything that has happened chronologically, because that seems like the best way to tell this story. Even though it might be a bit chaotic, I think this is the best option. So, I hope you enjoy it. A little over 2 weeks since the start of this experiment, I decided to feed them some dog food.
He's just a little smeekelaar.
Which turns out not to be tasty at all. And some whole peanuts as well. Half an hour later, this magpie was checking it out. Later that day, I wanted to see whether the jackdaws, which were patiently waiting for me, wanted to try some new food as well.
Maybe they want a peanut. Yep.
The jackdaws instantly recognized the peanut, which tells me someone might have fed some to them before. This crow also seems to recognize it, but it doesn't seem to be in any kind of hurry. I expected it to immediately fly over. I mean, I think that's what I would have done. But then again, why would it be in a hurry? It probably doesn't have places to be, not right now at least. Maybe it felt like stretching its legs for a change. Just living in the moment, doing what feels right. Awesome. Oh, it doesn't really seem interested, maybe that's why. Perhaps some dog food? Interestingly, it knew to soak it in water, so it would get softer. Very cool.
He's wetting it.
A little later that evening, the food on the balcony was getting a lot of attention. And not just the attention of magpies anymore. The jackdaws and crows are also getting interested. I accidentally spooked this one by getting closer, and now he's waiting in the distance, probably to return when I'm gone. Wow, the magpie was not happy with that. It's a little territorial. They seem to really like the dog food and the peanuts because it's now the next morning and it's already all gone. And I even restocked the peanuts yesterday, so let's give them some more. Let's see how long it'll last this time. I seem to really like this stuff. After just 10 minutes we have some attention. Just 3 hours later the dish was empty. So I decided to use a trail cam to film some of the action. Thanks to all my patrons and their generous support which allowed me to buy it. This is 5 days later, by the way. I also decided to add a little bowl of water, as you can see.
Well, I filled the dish this morning and now it's all empty, so let's see what the trail camera was able to film.
It recorded a whole bunch of nothing before destroying the memory card later that afternoon, so that wasn't a huge success. I bought a new memory card and this time positioned it so that the road was not in frame because that seemed to trigger the trail cam. But for some reason the birds didn't trigger the camera, so even though I had another empty dish, I've got nothing to show you. If anyone has any tips on how to improve this, I'll be glad to hear them. Today I started trying to see if they were interested in eating from my hand, because they were getting way closer than before, especially before I started filming. Classic. It's now about 6 weeks since the start. I didn't really expect them to feed from my hand yet, and spoiler alert, they didn't, but I figured at some point I'll have to start trying, otherwise they'll never do it. You cannot see this of course, but I was averting my gaze because they get more skittish if I look directly at them. The pigeons were making this a bit difficult because they have no problem approaching me, but for some reason they intimidate the jackdaws a bit. A few days later the jackdaws were getting a bit closer, but they were still hesitant. I decided to place a whole peanut on the bench and slowly walk away to see how far away I need to be for them to feel comfortable. The jackdaws were scared away though by a crow. I've noticed that the jackdaws sometimes try to irritate the crows, but at the end of the day they are scared of the much bigger bird. Much to my surprise, the crow swallowed the peanut whole. The very next day, some jackdaws became comfortable enough to sit on the bench next to me. I think they were also starting to get used to my routine. I feed them every morning and I think they started to notice because they would really quickly find me. Before, I actively had to search them out, and more are joining. I didn't film it before, so here's some actual footage of them sitting on the bench next to me. I also let them get used to my hand a bit more. Hey buddy. Two days later, still about 6 weeks since the start, I noticed an interesting new behavior. The coolest example so far I unfortunately didn't film. But one individual jackdaw figured out that if it could catch the peanut from mid-air, it would be faster than all the others, giving it an advantage. At this time I was also starting to see new behavior in myself, as I was actually starting to recognize individual birds. Since it was new behavior, he or she wasn't really good at it yet, but it is still really cool. Cool enough to film it in slow-mo. When's the last time we had some slow-mo on this channel? This one was barely a miss, but this was a good one, and the pigeon is way slower.
Later that same day, this crow came to visit me. For a few days in a row, I sat on this bench around the same time, and this crow started to notice. If you want to try this for yourself, I would say that consistency really is important. I told you in the previous video that the crows seemed more careful when approaching me than the jackdaws, keeping their distance a bit more. That still seems to be the case, but the crows are also starting to get closer, but still not too close. The next day I wanted to try and see if the crows would get on the bench next to me, just like the jackdaws did earlier. Lo and behold, they did. They seemed really enthusiastic today, so I went straight to my balcony to try something. You won't believe what happened next. They followed me, and I think they figured out where I lived weeks before this, and what happens next will shock you. I placed a peanut on the railing, and it didn't take long for the crow on the lamppost to swoop in and take it away. So that was really special. I'm not sure if this is true, but it felt like the call was specifically directed at me. Anyway, I shouldn't have scared them away by throwing peanuts at them. It's really awesome that they sat on the balcony with me present. An absolute first. They're waiting in the tree for more peanuts. I decided to test how close they would actually get to me. They were sitting on a balcony below me and I heard them make a different vocalization. At some point I gave up though, and as soon as I stepped inside, they were all over it. This crow dropped 3 little peanuts to be able to hold 2 whole ones. Seems like a good trade. And it's gone. A little over a week later, I decided to try if the crow dared to come just a little bit closer. But it dared not. Another 2 days later, 2 months since I started befriending the corvids, and almost 2 weeks since that one jackdaw started showing new behavior by catching peanuts from midair, this new behavior was now shown by almost all jackdaws in my neighborhood. I guess they saw what that one jackdaw was doing and copied it because they would get less peanuts if they didn't. It's really cool how new behavior like this can propagate through a population. They're also really good at it. They didn't really practice it, they just started doing it. Very impressive. Or maybe they did practice it secretly somehow. Anyway, the crows can't do it, or won't do it, or both. I kept trying to see if they would dare eating from my hand. Alas, to no avail for now. Although this jackdaw was briefly considering it, instead it decided to do a little magic trick, becoming two with a simple flap of its wings. An ant did dare to go where the jackdaws wouldn't. You know how if you throw a ball at someone and ask them to catch it, they'll probably be able to do it, just like these jackdaws can catch peanuts. Oh, great example, guys. There, that's better. But if you throw two balls at someone and ask them to catch them, they probably won't catch either one. I wanted to know if that was true for jackdaws as well. Well, well, well. Well, well, well. How interesting. It seems that after 2 months, the jackdaws, as well as the crows by the way, dare to come much closer, but feeding from my hand is still a little out of reach.
So that happened in the past few weeks/months. It seems, and I'm not sure how well this comes across on camera, but I've noticed a difference in how the birds approach me. At the end of the last video I told you that I was pretty certain that some, if not most of the birds recognize me. By now I am absolutely sure that they recognize me. Before I had to sometimes walk around for quite a few minutes before I saw any birds, and now as soon as I step outside, the birds instantly find me, and I'm absolutely certain they recognize me. The jackdaws in particular seem way more relaxed than they were in a previous video. They are getting really close. I think it might be possible that they will start eating out of my hand at some point. The crows are still a bit more cautious. The only interaction I really have with magpies is if they're feeding from my balcony and I happen to see them. I don't really see them out on the streets. Unfortunately, this time I did not get any gifts. I'm happy to see that you guys are enjoying this story as well, because I really am enjoying myself, and I'm very curious to see what will happen in the future. Stay tuned and good fly.